Hi, everyone. I will wait. Hi, everyone. Welcome. My name is Tanya. I have the absolute honor to speak for Lupus LA today, all about stretching your food budget at the grocery store. So please, if you are joining live, stay for the whole talk. There's lots of goodies, lots of tips. First and foremost, I do want anyone that's watching, go ahead and press that like button if you've noticed the prices are going way up at the grocery store. So inflation certainly is a real thing, and of course, we want to make sure that everyone out there can not only eat healthy, but also stay within your food budget. So, who am I? Why am I talking on this topic? Great questions. My name is Tanya Freirich. I have a private practice as I work under the Lupus Dietitian, and I help many clients with autoimmune diseases, particularly with lupus, feel better through their diet, their lifestyle, and those sorts of changes. Why do I have this private practice? Well, I've been a registered dietitian for a long time. I love helping people with nutrition counseling feel empowered to make those decisions for themselves, but also I have lupus and quite a few other autoimmune diseases myself, and I have found that I feel so much better when I am being mindful of my food and diet and lifestyle. So anyway, let's jump right in. Again, press that like button if you've noticed the prices at the grocery store have gone up a little bit lately, and maybe a lot of it actually. So we're going to talk all about how to stretch your food budget, no matter what it is, at the grocery store. No need to overpay for the same things if we can help it. So let's get started. Now, the first thing that honestly is a great choice for just eating healthier in general is making more of your food and your meals at home. Oftentimes, the more convenient something is or the more prepared it is, we're paying more for that because presumably someone else had to help that food along. So, a very simple example, instead of, let's say, if you purchased an apple maybe $1.50. You can certainly buy a bag of apples for much cheaper than that. It really varies where you are at a gas station versus the grocery store, at a farmer's market, etc. But you're paying less for that usually than if you purchase, let's say, those little plastic bags where the apples are already pre-sliced. They put lemon juice on them to make sure that they didn't get brown. Or if you were, let's say, at a restaurant and paying for apple slices as a side, usually on the kids menu, for example, you're paying even more for that. So the more unprocessed, the more basic the food choice is that you're having, usually that's where you can find a lot of cost savings. Also, for everyone out there, if you are preparing your foods at home, not only is it usually cheaper, it does take a little bit of your time, so that's the one downside, but you can control every single ingredient in there. You can be sure, if you do have any dietary restrictions, that it's not contaminated with an ingredient that you don't tolerate. Maybe they're not adding too much salt. That's a big thing, certainly for lupus nephritis, when we have to be careful with keeping our kidneys not working too hard. We don't want to consume too much salt. So eating at home is a great way to control those ingredients and, again, save a lot of money. Other ideas for stretching your food budget. So not only are we purchasing more of the foods at the grocery store instead of at restaurants or at places where perhaps they sell it already halfway prepared, we are also going to try to plan ahead. Now, no one is perfect. No one is Wonder Woman or Superman out there. That can do everything all at once. So please don't beat yourself up about it if you are not one of those people that like plan out all of your lunches for the entire week and your dinners and your breakfasts and your snacks. It's a-okay. If you're just planning a little bit ahead, then that can be a fantastic way to stretch your food budget. So what does planning ahead entail? One thing that unfortunately we forget about is that oftentimes we spend a lot or waste a lot of our food budget on food that goes bad. things that expire, things that we forget about in the back of the fridge. I want everyone to comment below any sort of food that you've had to throw away lately because maybe it was in the back of the fridge. Certainly Thanksgiving just happened, so maybe, I don't know, your aunt or your uncle brought over a food that you don't even really like and it just kind of sat in the back, and now it's been long enough that you just went ahead and threw it away. So I want to see comments below of what you have thrown away lately that unfortunately maybe you didn't like, but maybe you did like it and you just forgot about it. So checking what you have is number one great way to make sure that you're stretching your food budget as much as possible, especially in those pantry items. So oftentimes those, let's say boxes of goods or things in bottles are shelf stable for a really long time. Sometimes it can be totally easy to forget about them and not realize, man, it's expired already. I have to throw this away. Or you open it and you're like, ooh, that really doesn't look good. I think that sat there too long. So checking what you've got in your pantry, in the fridge, and making sure to use it before it goes bad. So let's say it's vegetables, for example. Maybe you were very ambitious on a Sunday and said, you know what, I'm going to buy a lot of vegetables and I'll make sure that I cook them this week. And it didn't happen. That is a-okay. But before you go to the grocery store again, looking in the fridge, seeing what you've got, let's say the vegetables aren't in their prime state anymore. They're not as fresh and crispy as they were when you first bought them, but they're still okay. What I would recommend is going ahead, cleaning them up, giving them a wash, making sure all the dirt's off them, chopping them or dicing them or grating them, however you want to use them in the future, and go ahead and freeze them. Something like, for example, celery can be fantastic to add into different types of soups, like a minestrone or chicken noodle soup or chicken vegetable soup. Something like spinach that unfortunately gets so wilty so quickly. If you're just not going to eat it, go ahead, put it in the salad spinner, give it a good rinse, make sure it's nice and clean. Put them between towels, like hand towels or wash towels for the kitchen, and dry them out, and then go ahead, put them in a bag or put them in any sort of Tupperware, and freeze them. And then that way now you have spinach that you could put in soup, you could put in like curry, even a smoothie. So now you have an ingredient that hasn't gone to waste. You already spent your hard-earned money on it. So it's just that little bit of extra effort that then can give you really fantastic use later on. So don't miss out on the opportunity to take advantage of that ingredient that you already have. Also, when checking your current food supply, this is a really good tip because you can then craft whatever recipes, whatever future ingredients you are going to buy. So let's say there was a sale on avocados, and so you purchased quite a few of those, and now you realize, uh-oh, I have quite a few avocados, but I don't have the things that I want to go with them. So you could, let's say you want to make guacamole, pick up the other ingredients for that. Let's say you want to make avocado toast, but you don't have the type of bread that you usually enjoy. So now you can craft what you are going to buy at the grocery store to how can I utilize these ingredients that are here, they're ready to use, and I already spent the money on them. Also, that will help you buy less overall. And I don't know about anyone here. I certainly can be forgetful sometimes. And I just kind of think about the foods that I always buy, and may buy again when I don't actually need more of that we haven't gotten through all of it. So those are some tips about planning ahead. Certainly check what's in your pantry, check what's in your kitchen. If you have something that you don't want to use, go ahead and just clean it up, put it in the freezer. Another really, really great thing that you can do to plan ahead, and I don't know if anyone watched this show. It was on probably 10 or 15 years ago. It was, I forget the name of it, but it was all about couponing. And these people were fantastic couponers. They could use 50, 100 coupons and basically get things almost for free. You do not need to be that level of couponer, But if your grocery store sends out the circular and you're always going to the same grocery store and you notice, oh, wow, this thing's really on sale, like that's quite a significant reduction in price, take advantage of that. So looking for those coupons in the local paper or online. Sometimes grocery stores have like an app where you have kind of a loyalty program and special coupons that you can take advantage of. That's a great way to save money. And it also, if you get overwhelmed when you're thinking about, oh, what do I cook for this week? What should I plan? That can help narrow it down. If you have a couple of your favorite ingredients that are also on sale, then you can stock up on those and plan the recipes around them. They usually are a little bit reflective if it's the fresh produce of what's in season. So that's a great way to take advantage too. Now, I don't know about anyone. I love blueberries. So comment below if you love blueberries. At the end of the summer, they're usually on a fantastic sale because they're going out of season. They've picked all the blueberry bushes. They have this mass of fresh blueberries. I'm in the southeast of the United States, so that's when the time that we get tons of blueberries. Now, if you're in California, y'all get wonderful things all year long, so it's a little bit different. But at that time of year, I can get a huge container of blueberries for so cheap. Another example of a time when you should just go ahead and buy it, especially if you love them, and clean them up and freeze them. So now you have blueberries for blueberry muffins, for smoothies, for quite a wide variety of recipes that you can do later, but you didn't have to spend $5 on a little tiny pint of blueberries. You got a big, big, big container of blueberries for much cheaper. Planning your recipes. So we touched upon this a little bit regarding using those coupons and using what's cheap, but also this is really, really important for when you just want to use up everything. So sometimes it's kind of annoying if you only need, let's say, the tiniest amount of one ingredient, and then you realize, well, great, now what do I do with the rest of this? Sometimes herbs and spices, you only need a little bit for a favorite recipe. So maybe think about other recipes in your repertoire that you can utilize that same fresh herb or fresh spice. And then that way you don't waste it. Again, you can freeze it. Sometimes people actually have, it's not an air fryer, it's a dryer that can be used to make basically dried fruits, dry out the herbs and spices so that you have it preserved. You take the moisture out and then it doesn't go bad. So if you have one of those to preserve your food, certainly that's another great option. But almost everyone has a freezer, so that's a little bit easier. Also, in terms of planning your recipes, feel free to, if you don't have the ingredient and maybe it's just really expensive, get creative with your recipes too. See what else you have and utilize that. This one is very important. So shopping with a list. Again, it's another great way to plan ahead and stretch your food budget. So maybe you've looked at the coupons and you see, oh great, these 3 things that I really enjoy eating are on sale. I'm going to take advantage of those, but also go with a list. So you've presumably looked at your pantry, looked at your refrigerator, see what you have on hand. Then you can fill in the blanks with the ingredients that you need and go to the store and try to stick with the list. I know it's so fun to eat or try new things at the grocery store that you haven't tried yet. Maybe even budget for that. So 1 or 2 things that you would like to get as like a spur of the moment. Oh, I am in the mood to try this, but otherwise stick with the list. That's another good way to keep to a budget. So this is all before we even get to the grocery store. Now, while you are at the grocery store, go ahead and compare similar products. So you may notice, let's say, you like something like a barbecue sauce, that you have 12 barbecue sauce options in front of you. And oftentimes grocery stores, thankfully these days, also will break down the price per unit. So let's say it may be per ounces, per pound, not very often, but per milliliter, whatever the unit size, so that you can compare, well, here's my 10 barbecue sauces in front of me. Some of these are 10 ounces, some of these are 14 ounces, and it's the number of cents per ounce. So that way you really do get an idea of, okay, how much am I paying per ounce? Of course, try to buy what you need. If it's something that you use only once in a while, it may not make sense to buy the bigger amount. But anyway, you could find that you like a new brand that's actually a little bit cheaper. Honestly, the store brands, especially of things like oatmeal, white rice, like these are really, really basic items. They're really not different between store brand, fancy brand, just a brand that you grew up eating. At the end of the day, they're probably pretty similar. So go for a cheaper option. Also, other ideas that you can use while you're comparing products is to check the ingredients. This is maybe not related so much to the budget and being careful with that, but also with your health. So taking the time to read through the ingredients list, make sure that there's nothing in there that you don't really tolerate very well or causes a stomach upset. And then of course checking the price too. So there's two things that you should be doing, because unfortunately if you don't read the ingredients while you're at the grocery store pre-purchase, then you come home and maybe you read it then and you realize, oh man, I wasted money on something that I can't really enjoy anyway. Other ideas are looking for discount brands. There's all sorts of stores out there that are, let's say, in different neighborhoods, catering to different basically cuisines. So maybe there's more food, let's say if you were going to prepare Indian food or Mexican food, because it's a local market. And that's a great way to find ingredients that are prevalent in that cuisine at a much cheaper price, because presumably if people are cooking that cuisine, they're going to need a lot more of it. So for example, maybe you really enjoy peppers, like spicy peppers, at a Mexican grocery store, or at a grocery store, let's say if you really wanted to use turmeric that is catering towards Indian cooking, you may be able to find a much cheaper price in bulk. So that's a great way to find specialty ingredients that perhaps are less used at a just chain grocery store. Reading the nutrition facts label is another really good piece of advice so that you don't waste money on something that maybe won't work for you. And I discussed salt already for lupus nephritis, and being careful with too much salt is a little bit hard on the kidneys. So checking that over is really important as well. I touched upon this a little bit with the blueberries, but my next point of how to stretch your food budget is also taking advantage of things that are in season. I mentioned the local markets that are catering to different cuisines, but also take advantage of farmers markets. If there's any nearby, you can find such great deals, and especially towards the end of the farmers market time, those farmers do not want to take things back. So they may be more willing to do a little bit of a deal with you. Okay, take the last 6 of these things and I'll give you a cheaper price. I just don't want to take it back. And they're still making money. You're getting a wonderful, fresh, in-season product, and everyone's happy. So that's one thing, is farmers markets. Big cities often even have just a farmer's market that's open all the time. So that's wonderful to take advantage of. Or the ones that are open, let's say on a Saturday and Sunday. You can even purchase, let's say, your fresh produce from the farmer's market at cheaper prices, and then go to the grocery store the next day when you know, okay, these are the ingredients that I have on hand. What recipes do I want to do with them? And you can also check your pantry to make sure that you're utilizing that to the best. So there are certain things in season. So we're kind of wrapping up fall, but the sorts of things that are in season in fall could be like beets, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cauliflower, cranberries, if anyone used them during Thanksgiving, ginger, grapes, green beans, leafy greens, mushrooms, onions, parsnip, peas, raspberries. So lots of really, really good choices. Also, it's great to buy these fresh, but if the fresh is quite expensive and you just don't have it in your budget, don't forget about the frozen vegetables and fruits. So pre-frozen, that they're already in the grocery store that way, is a fantastic way to find a cheaper product. So unfortunately, things sometimes if they're not in season but you're really having a craving for them, could be quite expensive. But the frozen are usually reduced price and sometimes big bags of them. I would say regarding health that it's always a better idea in terms of preferred choices would be fresh and frozen, and then kind of less recommended would be the canned, because oftentimes they do have quite a bit of sodium added to it, and some are low sodium, but that could be a better thing to avoid. Talking about in-season produce going forward, so the ones in winter time, a lot of the same, but new things would be like cabbage, collard greens, grapefruit, let's see, oranges, pineapples, pumpkin, sweet potatoes, winter squash. So there's so many wonderful seasonal things that you can take advantage of and save money that way. Of course, there's always things available year round, carrots, bananas, lemon, limes. That can be a great addition. My last point of how to stretch your food budget is also not using animal protein so much. So the cost of, for example, beef and pork and chicken has really, really increased in the last, let's say, year or two. If you are able to craft your recipes, and if you don't want to give it up completely, that's totally fine. But maybe just using more of the vegetables to stretch out that protein. So let's say you're making something like a stir fry or a soup. You can add a lot of other really yummy ingredients, onions, broccoli, talking about a stir fry that can really increase the volume of the food and the nutrition. You're getting a lot of antioxidants, but maybe you use a whole lot less chicken so that the meal is still quite big. You're getting enough that you feel satisfied, but the protein isn't a big part of it. There's a lot of push for people to consume a lot of protein these days. We don't actually need all that much of it. And you can always utilize things like legumes. So beans, lentils, peanuts, that's all in the legume family. Nuts and seeds are another source. Mushrooms, all of these are sources of protein that are not from an animal that can be very cheap. Beans and lentils, chickpeas, all of those dried especially are very affordable. So don't forget to take advantage of those sorts of things. Let me see if I have any more little nuggets that I would like to share. Oh, this one's my favorite, cooking in batches. So do things in bulk. This is just amazing for time management, for taking advantage if you have not so much energy to be preparing meals constantly. If you can do something in bulk, let's say a big pot of soup, and then freeze those leftovers, now you have lunch in a pinch, or the leftovers in 2 or 3 weeks to have dinner. Soups obviously freeze really well because they have the liquid there to keep all of the ingredients, and oftentimes the flavors get even better. So that's one thing where you can take advantage of, oh man, I have a lot of this ingredient, I really just need to get through it. And some people have even told me that they have like kitchen sink meals where they just go through and figure out, okay, what are all the leftovers in the fridge? How can I take advantage of them? And just come up with something that maybe it doesn't have a recipe, but it can still be delicious. So I have spoken quite a bit, and I want to make sure that I am here to answer any questions, and we have quite a few. So let's answer those. Okay, so, oh, I'm so sorry. About 15 minutes ago, it seems like I was coming in and out, but I hope that that's resolved now. So the first question I have is, what are nightshades, and should lupus patients avoid them? That's a fantastic question. So nightshades are an entire family of fruits and vegetables. They include things like tomatoes, tomatillos, eggplant, white potatoes, peppers, and basically any type of pepper. So bell peppers, cayenne pepper, spicy peppers, jalapenos. The only thing that they don't include that has the word pepper in it is like black pepper, like what you would use in a grinder to use on food as a spice. That's a different family. Also in the nightshades are goji berries, and there's quite a few other things, but those are kind of the ingredients that are most easily found. So there is some information basically about nightshades that they can be problematic for some people. So I would not say a blanket statement of, oh, yes, all lupus patients should avoid them. If any of you have been in a lupus support group, you may already know that your lupus symptoms are not exactly the same as someone else's lupus symptoms. What works for you may not work for them. Certainly, doctors are well aware of this when they have a whole roster of lupus patients. Some people do really well on certain medications, certain dietary changes, and some people don't. So it's a little bit tricky. There's no kind of blanket statement that I can say is great for everyone. But if you think already, whenever I eat tomatoes, I don't feel really good after I consume them, then it may be worth just trying to eliminate it for a while and seeing if you feel better. Is garlic safe to eat for people with lupus? Fantastic question. So there is very strong research on both sides of garlic. So there is good research about the anti-inflammatory benefits, the antioxidant benefits of the component in it, allicin. However, on the flip side, there's also good research that garlic can be a little too immune stimulating. So this is, again, a case where it really depends on the person. Some people, clients that I work with, notice with garlic that it bothers them quite a bit, and some people flourish while they're eating it. So it's tricky. Oh, thank you, Estella. Yes, the show was called Extreme Couponing. I'm sure people could find clips on YouTube of what that show was, but it was very entertaining. What are lectins, and do you recommend your clients avoid them? Fantastic question again. So lectins are a component that can be found in legumes. So that would be your beans, your lentils, chickpeas, kidney beans, etc. And also cereal grains. However, they're mostly found when those are raw. Oftentimes we're not eating these things raw. If anyone is consuming beans, you've usually soaked them for a very long time, maybe overnight. And I actually do recommend that to people, to soak your beans overnight. And then you've cooked them for a long time too, maybe in a pressure cooker or a slow cooker. So those processes, whether it's steaming, boiling, soaking, anything with liquid, is deactivating the lectins. So please don't eat raw beans. That can make you very, very sick because it's a component that your body doesn't know how to digest. But if you're cooking them properly and spending enough time, then those lectins are deactivated. How quickly do your clients with lupus see changes after changing their diet? Oh, that's a great question too. So again, everybody's very different, but I always seek to help people feel their best immediately, as soon as possible. So oftentimes people have noted that they feel a pretty big difference, a pretty big improvement in their symptoms and how they feel within 1 to 2 weeks of working together. What is your top meal recommendations for lupus patients for nutrient-dense, easy dinner? That's a tough question. So I don't have any one-size-fits-all plan that I just give to everyone. I actually cater all of my dietary recommendations to the person. So if you tell me, oh, I don't like X, Y, and Z ingredients, then that recommendation maybe that I made to someone else just wouldn't work for you. So it really depends on what foods you like, what foods you are eating that bring you a lot of joy, that make you feel good. That looks different to every single person. And then, of course, we build upon that. So we increase the amount of foods that are very nutrient dense, and then we would decrease any foods that could be triggering negative symptoms for you. Now, overall, I would say a big component that everyone can improve upon is our intake of vegetables. Most people are not consuming enough. And what is my number one piece of advice for lupus patients that are meal planning on a budget? What should we prioritize? So just as I almost got to the point with the perfect top meal recommendation. So for everybody, it's so different. There's a million and one ways to approach it. However, it needs to work for you long term. So let's say you notice when you're trying to be on a budget that you really struggle with utilizing the ingredients in your kitchen. So maybe that's what you work on first of, okay, when I buy something, I'm going to try to use all of it, or I will freeze the remainder so that it doesn't go to waste and that eventually I'll get to it. So maybe that's something that person A really needs to work on, especially if their energy is a little bit wonky. Maybe they have high energy days and very low energy, high fatigue days. Then utilizing the freezer to just put it away to deal with on another day could be something that really helps them. I would also recommend for everyone, even not lupus patients, is really trying to do things in bulk. Utilize your very precious energy cautiously. So if you are able to do, and I don't mean being in the kitchen for 12 hours making a million recipes, but if you are able to do a recipe with enough that you have the leftovers, now you've avoided the time and energy that you would have to do later on to prepare a new recipe. So now you've given yourself back, I don't know, 30, 45 minutes the next day. Instead of prepping a meal, now you just have the leftovers. Leftovers are my favorite. I love them so much. Okay, so the last question that I got, and please, everyone watching, feel free to ask questions. That's what I'm here for. I'm happy to answer. If your potassium gets depleted from being on steroids, how can we make up for it with diet? Are there high potassium foods or drinks that we can add? Yes, there are a lot. There are things like bananas that we're all pretty familiar with. Avocado, spinach, coconut water. There's so many high potassium foods out there that you can add. And just electrolytes in general are really great to make sure that you're getting enough of. So sodium, most people are totally fine. We get a lot of sodium from any sort of processed foods. But potassium, magnesium, and enough fluids. We don't want to be dehydrated. So it's a balance of all of these things to help you feel your best. Now, I'm just going to scroll up to make sure that I didn't miss any questions. And please, please, please feel free to ask any further ones. I don't want to keep everyone all day long, even though I love answering these questions. But while I give, let's say, 30 more seconds for people to ask any questions, please don't hesitate to follow me. You can follow me on Facebook, Instagram, basically everywhere as The Lupus Dietitian. I have my website, thelupusdietitian.com. I help people both one-on-one and in my group program. So I am here to help. I absolutely love, love, love helping clients that have lupus or other autoimmune diseases feel their best with diet and lifestyle. There's so many ways to make these changes that can get you those sustainable results. And everything is personalized to each client that I work with, because what works for you may not work for the next person with lupus or autoimmune, so it really has to be personalized. I haven't seen any more questions coming in, but I do want to give a very, very big thank you, especially to Lupus LA for having me. It is always an honor to speak on your platform and reach all of the Lupus LA followers. I hope that everyone has an absolutely wonderful rest of your week. Stay warm wherever you are. Don't let the stress of the holidays get to you. And then we have one more talk in this series coming up. So please come on back. We will be posting about it. And I can't wait to be back again and answer any more questions. Oh, one last question did come in, so I do want to answer this. What do you think about using a cold pressed juicer at home to make fruit and vegetable juice for someone who has lupus and Sjogren's? Okay, great question. So there's a lot of layers of this. So fruit and vegetable juice is a great way to get in fruits and vegetables. However, you are eliminating the fiber part of it, which can be something that you do want to consume. So I would say that can certainly be a component of a healthy diet, but don't use that as the only way to get fruits and vegetables. So maybe consuming them, cooking them, having them in other recipes. And then also we should be mindful of what fruits and vegetables are in there. Not all fruits, because then it can be very high in sugar and no fiber to help your body kind of slow down its digestion. So thanks so much for asking that final question. And again, I'll be back. But thank you all so much and have a great rest of your day. Take care.